everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to bring you guys my mid-March reading wrap-up slash get ready with me video. I'm really excited about making this video. For one thing, spring has kind of sprung where I live, which is near New Orleans, Louisiana, and so I decided to have my green light back here. And I'm also planning on doing a green eyeshadow look with the Tribe palette by Juvia's Place. This is the color palette that we're working with, so I'm really excited to be playing with some greens and teals and different colors like that. Also, just to give you like a little bit of a life update, it's definitely been a while since I have filmed. All of the content that you guys have been seeing in March has been pre-filmed content because my sister and brother-in-law came to stay with me for the past couple of weeks. They live in the UK right now, so they came back to the States to visit. And so, yeah, I just like pre-filmed a bunch of stuff in anticipation of their visit. And March has also been kind of crazy for me. I guess I should start putting on makeup while I'm talking. Yeah, like I was saying, March has been a crazy month for me, not only because like I just talked about with my sister and brother-in-law coming to stay with me, but also at the very beginning of the month, we finally started rehearsals for this production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella that I am in, and I am playing Madame, aka the stepmother in that, which is really fun. I have not been in a musical in just about 10 years now that I'm thinking about it. I've been so immersed in the opera industry, and so it's really nice to be in the musical again, and it's also really fun to play a villain and like a character role. Those are the kind of roles that I specialize in, I guess you could say. So yeah, because of so much going on this month for me, I have not been reading as much as I usually do. I have 13 books to talk about today that I read in the first half of the month, which is not terrible by any means, but I've kind of gotten used to reading about a book a day. So 13 is like a little less than that. It's totally fine though. I'm not like mad at myself or anything. It's just, you know, there's things going on in my life. So why don't we just go ahead and jump into the book. So the first one I want to talk about is The Many Sins of Lord Cameron by Jennifer Ashley. This is book 3 in her Mackenzie McBride series. I really don't have much to say about this one, if I'm being honest. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really solid. And I knew going into it that this is not as iconic of a book as like The Madness of Lordy and Mackenzie or Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage. I really read this just to continue on the series, and I really want to get to the next book, which is The Duke's Perfect Wife. I'm so excited for that installment. So yeah, I read this one and I had a good time. I honestly truly don't remember much about the plot except that it's about, let's see, I have my notes here. It's about Cameron, of course, and Ainsley. I just remember horses being heavily involved in the plot because Cameron trains horses, like for racing and things like that. Yeah, I put that I just had a good time. The heroine does the grand gesture, which is really cool. And I'm just, yeah, I'm really excited for Heart's book, which is the next one in the series. Watch Us Rise. This is a YA novel by Renee Watson and Ellen Hagen. I'm just gonna set the book over here, but you already saw the cover. So this is about 2 best friends. We have Chelsea and Jasmine. They go to some kind of like private, maybe arts high school. I can't quite remember, but I know that the school just has like a lot of different clubs and things like that. So Jasmine and Chelsea are best friends. They've been best friends for a long time. And they're 2 very different people at the same time, which is why there's 2 different authors. Renee Watson is a Black author and Ellen Hagen is a white author. Just like one of the best friends is white and one of the best friends is Black. And so basically what happens is that they both realize that the school administration just doesn't really listen to the students. And because both students have raised concerns about like their voices being heard and equality and different things like that, and yeah, like the administration's just like not really listening. And so I think they decide to form their own club, like specifically about like feminism. So they form their own club and they start this blog to get the word out there about the issues at this school, and things go on from there. I would highly recommend this book if you enjoyed Moxie by Jennifer Matthew, I believe is the author of that one, because I just get similar vibes from this book. I would also highly recommend this book if you or someone you know is looking for a good introduction as to like what feminism and intersectionality is. I thought it was really solid. I really don't have much to say about this one. I really loved the friendship between Jasmine and Chelsea, because it's not a perfect friendship. They definitely have issues throughout the book, but the way that they address those issues is just really, really great. We love friendships with clear communication. Okay, so next one I want to get to is Barbarian's Hope by Ruby Dixon. This is, I believe, book 11, yes, in her I Spin a Barbarian series, which is an alien romance series. I've been kind of reading like a book or two from this series a month. There's like 22 books in this series, and then Ruby Dixon also, like, she's such a prolific author. She has at least one spin-off series of this, and then she's just got like a ton of different alien romance series. She also writes like fantasy romance as well. Like, she's just got a lot going on in her backlist. So yeah, I've been kind of making a point to read maybe 1 or 2 of her books per month, something like that. And so I was really looking forward to this one because this is a second chance romance between 2 aliens. Both main characters are aliens. All the other books in the series have involved a human woman and an alien man. This one's about Asha and Himalo. They were mated some years before. Content warning for loss of a child, because this is discussed quite a bit, that Asha became pregnant from Himalo. She ended up losing the child, I think pretty shortly after the child was born, and so she's dealing with that grief. She basically pushed Himalo away. Neither of them really knew how to deal with their guilt from that, and so yeah, they ended up separating despite being mated to one another. And now it's some years later, this is the story about how they end up reuniting. And I really enjoyed this one, just like all the other books in the series. I gave this one 4 stars. This one is definitely more emotional, like I said, because of the content warnings. But I thought that Ruby Dixon did a really good job of covering a topic like loss of a child, and I just loved seeing these 2 characters come back together again. I adored the epilogue. It was so emotional, so beautiful. And Asha is a character that I've always been looking forward to her book, because we met her like probably all the way back in book 1. And she actually reminds me a lot of Nesta from the ACOTAR series. Like, she seems like this very prickly, unapproachable person, and she's just angry at the world, but then the second you're in her POV, you like immediately understand where she's coming from. Next up we have the Lady Thompson Air by Harper St. George. This is book 3 in her Gilded Age Heiresses series. This is a series that takes place primarily in London in the UK, whereas like Joanna Shupe's books take place in the States, in New York. So that's one of the things I enjoy about the series for sure. And after loving book 2, I gave that one 5 stars. I was so looking forward to this book, especially because I was already really intrigued about the main characters of this one, who are Max and Helena. Max is the older brother of the 2 heroines from books 1 and 2 of this series. And then Helena is a friend of one or both of the sisters. I can't quite remember, but that's how she's connected to the family as well. And so this one's just really fun because they end up going into a fake engagement, essentially because being engaged to one another would benefit both of their business ventures. Well, with Max, it would basically make his father get off his back. But with Helena, it would benefit her business ventures to have somebody like Max on her side. And so yeah, things go on from there. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think my main gripe is that as much as I really enjoy the characters and I loved Max, oh my God, Max is like so sweet and swoony. I love him. Also, we love a hero with a beard. We don't get that too much in historical romances, but yep, he's got a beard. And as much as I loved these 2 main characters, I do feel like this book focused a bit too much on the non-romance part of the story. So like Helena's business ventures, Max's business ventures as well, and family drama and things like that. I wanted to see more of these two characters bonding with each other and falling in love. Like for me personally, I feel like we didn't get quite enough of that. But like I said, I still really enjoyed it. I still had a good time. I definitely would recommend this one. Just for me personally, my personal favorite of the series is definitely book 2, which is The Devil and the Heiress. Next up, we have Just a Heartbeat Away by Cara Bastone. This is book 1 in a series by her, one of the only series by her actually. She doesn't have like a huge backlist, but I was really excited about reading this series because, well, I'd heard really great things about this series in general, but also because I listened to both of her Audible original audiobooks that she came out with like a year or so ago. And I did see recently she announced that she's coming out with a 3rd audiobook in that same series. I can't remember what it's going to be called, but I'm so excited because I love the first 2 so much. But I've just been hearing amazing things about this series. This is book 1. This one's about Sebastian and Via. This is a single parent, age gap, slow burn romance. We've got a lot of tropes going on. And so Sebastian and Via meet for the first time because Sebastian recently lost his wife. I believe she was in some kind of car accident. And so he has not been the best father. He's not been taking the best care of his young son. And so Via, being his, I think, kindergarten teacher or preschool teacher, she respectfully approaches Sebastian about that and about how like his son is kind of showing signs of neglect. And so she kind of gives him this checklist of things that he can do every day to ensure that he's being a good father. And so rather than like getting defensive about it, Sebastian takes her advice and he changes his ways. And so they don't actually meet again until a couple of years later, when Via starts working as a counselor at Sebastian's son's school. And so yeah, things going from there. This actually reminded me a little bit of like a Mariana Zapata romance, just because of like how slow burn it is. You really see these two people become really close friends. They clearly have an attraction to each other, but Sebastian just thinks he's too old for her because she's like 25. I think he might be 40, something like that. And so that's kind of like the main thing getting them in their way is like the age gap. He just feels ridiculous pursuing somebody like Via. And so yeah, you get to see these two become friends. And like I said, it reminds me of a Mariana Zapata slow burn because they don't even kiss until like, I want to say it was like 75% of the way through the book. Like, you gotta wait. She makes you work. Cara Bastone makes you work for this one. But I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I'm definitely really looking forward to continuing on with the series. I'm very interested to see the characters that the next books are going to follow. So next up we have Good Girl's Guide to Rakes by Eva Lee. This is her newest release. This came out pretty recently, like February 22nd, something like that. And I was really, really excited about this one because we've got the rake meets wallflower trope. Truly one of my favorite tropes, especially in historical romances. And so this one's about Kieran and Celeste. Kieran is definitely a rake with a capital R. And then we have Celeste, who is a good girl in every sense of that term, mainly because of the pressures that her family puts on her because they're nouveau riche. And so they depend on Celeste to make a really good match and marry someone who I guess has old money so that they can be more respected in society. So yeah, especially her father, puts a lot of pressure on her to marry the right man, right? But Celeste is just kind of tired of being put into this box. She wants to live her life. And so we have Kieran, who is Celeste's brother's best friend. So we've got that trope going on. And he recently like gets into trouble with his parents. And so his parents threaten to cut him off unless he gets married within the next year. So Celeste is really the only kind of like nice girl that he knows, you know, somebody who is in society and has those connections. And so he asks her to help him meet a respectable woman to marry. And in turn, Celeste wants Kieran to take her out and show her the fun side of London, I guess you can say. So that's what's just so fun about this book is like seeing the different places that Kieran takes her. Kieran also wears eyeliner when they go out at night, and I mean, isn't that just hot? And this is like the perfect balance of like sweet, sexy, and fun with like the perfect amount of angst thrown in. This also reminds me of 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake and The Lady Gets Lucky by Joanna Shoup. So if you've loved both of those books, I think you'd really enjoy this one. I also love that this was a healthy relationship with clear communication. We love to see that in romance novels, and we don't always get that. So yeah, 5 stars, highly, highly recommend. It was a good time. You know, as much as I love doing colorful eyeshadow, it's so time consuming to get the blend just right. But the next book that I want to talk about is Twisted Hate by Anna Huang. I was so excited about this book after reading Twisted Games, which is the previous book in this new adult romance series. This is an enemies with benefits romance, and let me just say that this book totally serves that trope in spades. Like sometimes when a book is marketed as something like that, like it doesn't really, you know, serve what you want, but this one totally does. And so this one is about Josh, who is a doctor, and Jules, who is finishing up law school. And so we've seen their characters a little bit in the previous book that I read in the series. I haven't read book 1 and I don't really plan to, just because like the characters that one's about like just honestly doesn't really interest me. These 2 characters have like hated each other for years and years. So they met because Jules was roommates with Josh's younger sister Ava in college. And so because of Jules, Ava and Jules like always got into these like troublesome situations, and so Josh always blamed Jules for that. And so since then they've just hated each other and they've always bickered. And towards the beginning of this book, they get to a point where fighting all the time is not going to work for their careers, because they both end up working kind of with the same organization. And so Josh proposes that they enter into this like enemies with benefits situation where you know, they'll have sexy times together and they'll kind of make a truce. But let me just say, there's a lot of hate sex in this. Like, be prepared, be prepared. And girl, that's what I wanted when I went into this, you know. But yeah, so things on from there. I will say, so this book is long for a romance novel. It's like 500 pages, and at first I was definitely skeptical of that length, because I was like, girl, when does a romance novel need to be more than like 380 pages, right? So I was definitely very skeptical of that. But I have to say, after reading this, that it needed to be that long to make the development of Jules and Josh's relationship work, because we needed that time where, you know, they went from hating each other to kind of being frenemies with benefits-ish, to developing feelings for each other that are more than that. Yeah, I'm just glad that the author didn't rush us through the process of this development of their relationship. Like I said, we really needed to spend time with it. And I think this is needless to say, but this book gets very messy, very, very angsty. There's also quite a few content warnings for this book. There's blackmail, stalking, past emotional abuse, violence. Yeah, but I just loved this book so much. I thought it was like infinitely better than Twisted Games. Like, I enjoyed Twisted Games, but I just feel like this book was on another level for sure. Had a really, really, really good time with it. I also love Josh and Jules together because they have fantastic banter. Even though a lot of it is pretty like mean-spirited, a lot of it is also funny and like in good fun. Also, I do want to point out that Josh does get pretty cruel during the third act breakup. He says some really awful things to Jules, even more awful than things that he said earlier in the book. So just be aware of that. And some people feel that he should have groveled more. I don't really know. I feel like it still worked for me, so that's why I kept the 5-star rating. I think that this is just a fantastic new adult romance. Again, if you want like true hate to love, like, there you go. This is the book for you. Next up we have Tycoon by Joanna Shupe. So this is like a prequel novella in her Knickerbocker Club series, which was the very first series that she ever published. And the reason why I read this in the first place was because I was set to do an interview with Joanna Shupe on Jess's channel, Jess from Peace Love Books. So that interview happened this past Friday. I will link that either up in the cards or down in the description. I had so much fun interviewing Joanna Shupe. Like, she's just like the coolest person, and I'm just so thankful that Jess asked me to participate in that interview. And so yeah, I wanted to read a couple of more Joanna Shupe things before that interview, just so that I had like her writing style fresh in my mind. So this one this one is so fun. Like, the meet cute is definitely unique and definitely different. So we have our heroine Clara and our hero Ted, and so this takes place mostly on a train and at the very beginning of the novella. Both Clara and Ted are at the train station, and this takes place during the Gilded Age in New York. By the way, that's the era that Joanna Shupe writes in. And so this is this is hilarious. Clara literally just runs up to Ted and like kisses him and acts like she is his wife, to get on the train with him, because she's on the run from somebody. She basically saw something she wasn't supposed to see, and now she is on the run from these people that want to kill her. And so yeah, she just pretends to be Ted's wife, and Ted goes along with it at first, because he's like, okay, this woman seems like scared. I'll just ask her what's going on when we get on the train. And so yeah, things go on from there. I just like loved seeing Clara like kind of bulldoze her way into Ted's heart. This is also an age gap, because she's in her like early 20s and he's like, I think in his early to mid 30s, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, this was just like a really good time. Gave it 4 stars. I do feel like the ending was a little abrupt because we didn't get an epilogue, and I really would have liked to have seen just a little bit more of these characters, but I really enjoyed it and I definitely would recommend it. Next one, oh my god, this one was so good. This is The Weight of It All by N.R. Walker. This one was recommended to me by Desiree from Genki Reader. I will definitely link her channel down below. She has some really great romance recommendations, and so I read a book by N.R. Walker, what was it, in I guess late February. That one was Throwing Hearts. That one was adorable as well, but this one to me was on another level. I gave this one 5 stars. So this is definitely a rom-com. That's definitely the kind of romances that N.R. Walker writes, and this one is about Reed, who is a personal trainer, and then we have Henry, our main character, because we don't ever get Reed's POV, but Henry at the very beginning of the book, he gets dumped by his longtime boyfriend because his boyfriend says that he is old and fat, basically. Even though like they're the same age, he just like acts very old, and he's gained weight over the course of their relationship, and so he wants nothing to do with him, and so he just like leaves Henry, and he's an asshole about it. And so that sends Henry into like a tailspin, and he decides that he wants to try to get his boyfriend back by losing weight, and so he decides to go to a personal trainer who is Reed. And so this is just adorable because, for one thing, I love how body positive this book was. I was definitely worried going in because this is a romance between somebody who's trying to lose weight and a personal trainer. I was worried that Reed, the personal trainer, was only going to be attracted to Reed because he was losing weight, and that's so not the case. Like, you can just tell that these two people fall for each other because of their personalities. Like, I loved seeing this like friends to lovers. It's definitely kind of a slow burn romance, and so it's like a friends to lovers situation, and seeing them bond over things like food recipes, like healthy recipes, and like seeing Reed be like the most like supportive trainer ever, and like, oh my god, it's just like so sweet, so adorable. These two people are just like so perfect for each other, and it was funny, and like, oh, like I could go on about this book. Like, it was so good. Highly recommend it, and I'm so happy that it was as body positive as it was. Next up, we have Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. To say that I was excited about this release would be putting it quite lightly, because I am a huge Tessa Bailey fan. I adore most of what I've read by her. I actually haven't read that many books by her. I don't even think I've read any of her. No, I have read a couple of her indie published books, but I've definitely read all of her like Avon published books. And so this is the follow-up to It Happened One Summer, which was one of my absolute favorite books that I read in 2021. So I was very excited to get Hannah and Fox's story. Hannah is the sister to Piper, who was the heroine in book 1, and Fox is the best friend of the hero, Brendan, from book 1. And so we got glimpses of these two characters together. This is definitely a friends to lovers romance. I'm gonna apologize again for like having this mirror right in front of my face, so you guys can't even see me putting on my makeup. I hate that for me. I'm so bad. So bad at filming myself doing my makeup. Oh man. So this is definitely a slower burn, like friends to lovers romance. What I really enjoyed about this one is Fox's, our hero's character journey in particular, because he's always had this like image pushed onto him that he's like a ladies' man, a playboy, a rake, even though this is a contemporary romance. And so with Fox, it kind of turned into one of those situations that like, when you're told from a young age that you're this type of person and that, you know, they put you into this box, it's like you can't help but play into the image that people see of you. And so he has been a ladies' man like most of his life. And then he's also kind of dealing with the trauma of, he tried to get into a serious relationship in college, but it turned out that the woman he was with didn't take him seriously. And so from then on, he's definitely been turned off about the idea of love, and he truly thinks he's not worthy of it. And then Hannah, her character is interesting too, because she doesn't see herself as like the main character of her own life, which is definitely something that I feel like a lot of us can relate to. I know that I can definitely relate to that. I don't really see myself as, I don't know, like all that special of a person. Like when I think of a main character, I think of somebody who like is special and like, I don't know, really cool and really brave. And like, I feel like a lot of us have this idea of like, that we're not that special. I don't know, like, is that weird? I know I'm not alone in that, right? And so Hannah also works in film. She really wants to get into specifically like the movie soundtrack side of things, because she just adores music. And so yeah, things just going from there. Let's see what I've said about this one. Oh, there's like a forced proximity roommate situation, because Hannah comes to Westport, which is the town that this little series takes place in. She comes to Westport they're filming a movie there that she's a part of. And so Fox lets her stay in his house with him. I also really loved like the role that music plays in this book, because Hannah loves music so much, and like hearing how like she thinks about music and how she thinks about movie soundtracks and things like that. Like I thought that that was really interesting. I really enjoyed the romance between the two of them. I will say for me personally, I did enjoy It Happened One Summer a bit more. To me, this book, it's not that it's necessarily forgettable, it just like didn't pack the same punch for me that It Happened One Summer did. But I still really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I loved the epilogue, by the way. If you've read this book, you will know what I'm talking about. It's just like such a sweet and funny epilogue. And yeah, it was just like really great being back in this town again with these characters. Like I love this little fishing town of Westport. I just have a few books left. Next one is Breaking Him by Shirley Gray. This is a really short, I think it's like a novella. I don't even think it's like 200 pages, but it was a book that I found out about randomly on Instagram. Somebody did a post about the virgin hero trope, which is a trope that I absolutely adore. And so somebody mentioned this one because it of course features a virgin hero, but it also involves like kind of BDSM. There's like a dominant sub relationship going on between the hero and the heroine. Also the hero is a cowboy. So let me just tell you a little bit about the plot. We have Elijah and we have, ooh, what's the heroine's name? Abigail. So she owns this farm that's not doing well financially, and Elijah works for her on the farm. He's a cowboy, he takes care of the horses, he takes care of everything that she needs taken care of, and she's always been attracted to him, but he's kind of like the town outcast. Like it's a very small town that they live in. There's just like these crazy rumors that have spread around town about him, and people know that he killed his father at a pretty young age, and so people are just scared of him. So like nobody talks to him, but she's just always been attracted to him. And so she makes the first move. Even though he is a virgin hero, we see pretty quickly that he's very dominant, very possessive. I also love like these stoic, gentleman cowboy type heroes. Like I'm always gonna be a sucker for that, and I thought that this book just did a really great job with both of their characters, and this one's just hot. Like, oh man, this book is hot. So yeah, I overall gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It didn't like completely blow me away, but like it was a good time, you know. It was something to listen to while I was getting stuff done around the house. And then let's see, I think I have 2 books left. Yes, next one is When the Duke Was Wicked by Lorraine Heath. So this is book 1 in her Scandalous Gentlemen of St. James series, which is a spin-off of her Scoundrels of St. James. Yes. And so yeah, this is the first book of the Scandalous Gentleman series, so I wanted to read this series in order. So basically this series is like the 2nd generation series of the Scoundrels of St. James. So like these are about like the kids of the heroes and heroines from that previous series. And so this one is about the Duke of Lovingdon. One of the weird things about this book is that we never, and I mean never, because I was paying close attention while reading this, we never find out his real name, his first name. And I think that's so weird. Like he never tells his love interest what his first name is. Like he never tells her, call me this instead. Because usually there's a moment in a historical romance where you have a titled hero where he's like, no, call me by my first name, don't call me by my title, but he never does that. So weird. Anyway, let's get back on topic. So this is about Grace, our heroine, in Lovingdon, like I said, and basically the plot centers around like Grace is adamant about wanting to marry for love, and so Lovingdon is a widower. He lost his wife and really young daughter to illness some years back, and so he's just kind of dead inside. He's very emotionally unavailable, and so Grace has kind of always had like some kind of like feelings toward him, some kind of crush on him, and he is just like not having it. And so instead he offers to help her find a husband who's going to love her instead of a man who's just after her dowry, because she has quite the hefty dowry. So there's a lot of fortune hunters that have been trying to court her, but yeah, he offers to help her find like a decent husband. But of course along the way he realizes his feelings towards her and that he can't let her go. And so here's the thing. I gave this like 2.5 stars. Don't hate me. Don't do it. Don't hate me. But the thing is that both Grace and Lovingdon to me were not interesting main characters to follow at all. Like Grace is fine. She's fine. I have nothing against her, but she wasn't like interesting to me either. And then Lovingdon, oh my God, Lovingdon is just so emotionally unavailable that I found him to be boring and unlikable. I did not give a shit about him. So because of that, I didn't give a shit about their romance. And so yeah, like the writing was good. I mean, you know, we know Lorraine Heath knows how to write, but the story was not captivating me. I didn't believe the romance because Lovington is just so emotionally unavailable, like I've already said. So by the end, when he confessed that he loved her, I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't believe that. And so yeah, like, I'm so sad. This is the first time that I've ever like not liked a Lorraine Heath book. Like, I'm a huge fan of her works, but this one just didn't work for me. And I think what's also disappointing is that I know so many people that say that this is one of their favorite Lorraine Heath novels, and I'm like, girl, why? Like, these two main characters have like no flavor. I was so bored by them. I am happy to say though that we are ending this video on a very, very high note because I decided to reread The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is book 2 in Julia Quinn's Bridgerton series. This is the book that season 2 of the Netflix series Bridgerton is going to be based off of. This is Kate and Anthony's story. So I read this one for the very first time. I want to say it was April of last year. I actually did a reading vlog where I read the entire series. I didn't read book 1. That book just doesn't appeal to me because like I find Daphne's character to be boring, and I know that there's a scene in that book that's not great, that's, you know, kind of controversial. So yeah, I read books like 2 through 8 of the series for that vlog, and I had a really fun time reading that series. But the first time that I read this book, I gave it 4 stars because I remember thinking that like the second half wasn't as good as the first half, and I found like the second half to be, well, it is more serious than the first half, and it just kind of dragged for me. I just didn't love the second half as much as the first half, because the first half is very funny, very charming. So I gave it 4 stars, like I said, the first time that I read it. And then I reread this because I was on a live show that Jess from Peace Love Books did this past Saturday. It was a live show all about the Bridgerton series and season 2 coming out and all of that. So we all decided to reread The Viscount Who Loved Me for that live show, and I'm so glad that I decided to reread this book because I had like a completely different reading experience this time around. Like, I adored this book so much more than the first time. It was like an easy 5-star for me. I didn't find the same issues with the second half that I did the first time that I read it. I thought the pacing was perfect. Kate and Anthony are everything to me. Like, they are my personal favorite couple of the Bridgerton series. And there's also a lot of things that I forgot about this book from the first time that I read it. Especially the scene where in the book, I know in the show it's gonna play out a lot differently, but in the book, you know, they have the corgi named Newton. It's Kate's dog, that ends up pushing Edwina, who's Kate's younger sister, into the Serpentine. And then Anthony rescues her. And then Kate has Newton shake off onto Anthony to make his clothes all wet. And for some reason, the first time that I read this book, I remembered it playing out as like Anthony was the one that got pushed into the river, and that's not the case at all. Like, what is going on in my brain that that I remember things completely different than how they are. So for that reason as well, I was glad that I reread this. There's so many iconic scenes in this book. I just adore Kate and Anthony. I love like this hate to love dynamic, and that it's like kind of one-sided. Kate is the one that definitely hates Anthony more. I think he's more like bemused and amused by her hatred of him, which is a really fun dynamic. And of course we love a Rake hero. Like, there's just so many things to love about this book, and it just made me so excited to jump into season 2 of the show, which is coming out this Friday. Can't recommend it highly enough if you are one of the few people that have not read the Bridgerton series. So that is going to be it for my mid-March wrap up. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss either the books that I mentioned in this video or books that you have been reading throughout the month. I always love talking with you guys in the comments, and I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!